Hello my friend, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I want to share with you how to dry start an aquarium and also explain to you why I think it's the best way to start an aquarium. Let's get right into it. All right, so if you know me and this channel, you know that I love to have tanks with carpets in them. And in my opinion, the best way to start a healthy, thriving carpet is to dry start your aquarium. I first tried the dry start about 3 years ago, and ever since then, I've always gone back to it. I absolutely love it, and I think it really helps benefit the health of the plants. Now, the dry start does have a lot of benefits, but it also has one big disadvantage, and that's that it takes time. It's one of those things that requires a lot of patience. But hey, we're here as aquascapers. We know what it means to be patient, and the beautiful thing about this hobby is that it teaches us patience. So if you're willing to be patient, the dry start method is definitely the way to go. I could sit here and explain it for as long as 15 to 10 minutes, but I think the best way for me to truly explain it is just to show you and kind of talk my way through a dry start. So let's go grab the tank and the equipment and the plants and get into it. Okay, so I've got 4 tissue culture cups of HC Cuba here that I've prepared and will be planting into this prism tank. This is the UNS Prism. I believe it's the 25T is the exact one, which is 3.2 gallons, I believe. But anyway, the hardscape's already done, as you can see. So the first step to do is to take the lid off, mist this thing down with a water bottle, and then get to planting. Okay, so now that the lid is off, I've got my little misting bottle here, and I've got it filled quite full with water. Just regular tap water, and I'm gonna be soaking the soil as best as I possibly can. So this can take a little while because the soil will automatically absorb water at the beginning. So you just gotta keep pumping away. Just really, truly soak this thing. Okay, so really in my opinion, there's 2 ways to dry start an aquarium like this. You can plant the plants individually, just in normal clumps like you typically would with any aquascape. That's my preferred method. Or there's the lazy dry start method where you just cut up the plants into as small pieces as possible and drop them on the soil. That takes longer though than planting them in clumps. So I prefer to just plant them in little clumps, and that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna take the HC Cuba and just fill this entire thing. So let's grab the plants and go ahead and do that. So like I said, you can plant it in little bunches, or you can lazy dry start it. In this case, something I prefer the bunches over the lazy dry start, but it really doesn't matter. And I have a lot of plants here, so I'm just gonna plant as densely as possible. One thing I like to do is I like to avoid planting directly up against the glass, because that way you don't have like an uneven soil line right here. I'd rather have the carpeting plant reach out and come up against the glass naturally. Not all plants, I should be specific here, not all plants are capable of being dry started. Like, you don't want to dry start a tank if it's filled with stem plants. Dry starting is typically only going to work properly with carpeting plants and mosses. A lot of stem plants are not going to do well with a dry start. So that's something to keep in mind as you're planning your tank. is whether you're gonna dry start or not, and if the plants will work with a dry start. You know, planting is pretty basic. Just plant like any other plant. You don't have to plant too deep because we're not gonna be filling this tank with water right away. This tank's gonna sit probably for a week or two with no water and just humidity. I'll finish this planting here off camera because this is gonna take a while. And once I finish, then I'll get into the next steps of how to dry start your aquarium. All right, so it's been a little bit. As you can see, most of the tank is planted now. I've filled in almost all the gaps and planted incredibly densely, but that's gonna be a good thing because this tank will be low tech. But you know, the whole point of the dry start is to let the plants establish their roots. So you don't want to dry start with potted plants, for instance, because most of those plants typically already have their roots established. I'm using tissue culture here, which means that the plants don't really have a root system yet, which makes a dry start absolutely perfect for that. So typically dry starts are done with just tissue culture plants, but they can be done with potted plants as well. There is no, you know, right or wrong in that manner. Something else I like to do when it comes to planting is I like to plant on the side glass. I like to put a couple pieces up against the glass. And you know how in the beginning of the video I said, don't plant against the glass. Well, that's in the front. You don't want to mess up the look in the front. The sides don't really matter that much. So if I plant on the sides, it allows me to have a direct look at the root system of the plants. That will help me determine if the dry start is finished or not. So always plant on the sides of the glass because that will give you a good vantage point and a good way to tell when the tank is ready. But never plant up against the glass in the front because that's gonna ruin the look of this soil line right here. And I want the carpet to grow out to the glass. Okay, so once the planting is done, which in this case, I think it's pretty good. It's a classic iwagumi with mountain stone here and HC Cuba carpet. I'm excited to see how this turns out. I think it'll turn out pretty nice though. But once that's done, you're basically gonna take your mister and you're just gonna mist the ever-loving daylights out of this thing. You wanna get this as humid and soaking wet as possible. The last step is to take the lid and I'm gonna pull the light back a little bit. Hopefully not hurt the rocks, that would be bad. Next thing is to take the lid, line it up right, like so, and seal it up. So once you have the tank all sealed up and ready to go like this, it's time to just sit back and wait. You want to run your light on its typical schedule that it will be on when you flood the tank, and that'll help keep the humidity in. You can also put this in front of the sun, like by a window where it's going to receive sunlight, and that'll really help it heat up and become even more humid. Like I said, the more humidity, the better. Once the roots form in a couple weeks, it'll be super simple to just fill up the tank. You'll have no floaters either because those roots will already be well established into the aqua soil. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something too. I really believe the dry start method is one of the best ways, if not the best way, to start any aquarium, as long as you have a carpet or plants that could benefit from it. If you're not subscribed to the channel already, please go ahead and do so. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.